What's up, everybody? It's me, your boy, the one, the only Jodecideion. Welcome to a very special episode of the One and Only Video Game Show. I'm sorry it's late, but as we all know, in life things happen, and so I wanted to have this video out sooner than later. But like I said, things happen, and it couldn't be so. Still, this is my video with my peers, my friends, uh, PM Prime, KFD, and my man Hypen, uh, Okashira. We came together to do our little tribute to the late great Satoru Iwata, who passed away recently, the president of Nintendo. And so in this video, you're going to hear different segments of us giving our opinions, not our opinion, just our thoughts on his passing, when we found out, how we feel about it, and everything all together. So like I said, I'm sorry about the video being late. I appreciate if you watched, if you listened to the video, and you know, he's in a better place, and he left Nintendo the way it should be. So, much respect to him, much love. Thank you for supplying me with great games, supplying us with great games, great content, a great console, being a great company throughout my whole life. Thanks for always being there. And thanks for continuing the tradition that Nintendo's about. And that's fun. Alright, y'all, enjoy the video. Thank you for listening again. Nintendo forever.
Yeah, man, this is hard to talk about. I already I already tried to talk about this shit before. I was like debating myself if I would do a video about this on my own on my channel, but Joe asked to do something special here with everybody talking about this sort of situation. Because to be honest, this is kind of a messed up situation. Um, it's kind of unprecedented for us, at least. So yeah, when I first heard this news, I was tired after a hard day of work. I just wanted to take a nap. So I lay down in my bed and I just checked my phone before I would doze off. And I see this tweet saying motherfucker died. I was like, what? What is this bullshit? And you know, I'm not like some of you people who take some rumors and just go fucking wild with that shit without having it be confirmed from credible sources and shit. Like, I had to, before I get upset, I had to make sure that this was 100% factual. Um, you know, this is not a devil's third situation where you crying already and you're going nuts, and it takes Nintendo of America say, "Don't worry, we'll have more news for you later." This is serious shit. This is a man's life, right? So, waiting for confirmation, and it came, and I couldn't fucking believe it. But to be honest, when we did the last console, when was that? April 1st or whatever. And we saw Wada last in person. He was not looking good. I mean, we knew, they told us that he was having problems like this, and we joked about it, saying, he doesn't look good. He might just look like a man had a stroke or something, or get something for his man to eat. He lost a lot of weight and shit like that. But we knew something was up. I didn't think it would end up like this. Like, we all thought maybe he can, bring it back, just get better and stuff, shit like that. But yeah, that news broke, and it's like, damn. As soon as that news broke, my heart just kind of sank. I never knew this, man. Dude's on the opposite side of a world, and this guy basically, he formed my childhood. He touched my life in a, not a profound way, but enough to where it kind of hurts to see him gone, right? Um, just thinking about it, like all the times, all these games I played, all the Nintendo fan from 26 years ago, when I was 4 years old. Well, now it's 27 years. Fuck old man, but this man's name was on almost all these damn games. All these fucking games that I beat. He was instrumental, either executive producer or developer or programmer, whatever. And now just to know that this man's name is not going to be on any more games and the credits, that's fucked up to me. That's really fucked up. And it gets me thinking that what happens when like Miyamoto goes, man? And that's the point where I think I'm gonna have to call my retirement totally from video games, because that Nintendo in general, but Miyamoto, he was instrumental in all my enjoyment, you know. But that's beside the point. This is about Iwata. He still was instrumental enough to have a deep effect on this shit, on a deep effect on Nintendo as a company as a whole, and it breaks my heart. And it also breaks my heart that when Joe did a tweet, he made a tweet, and he said that it's fucked up that the last thing this man saw was all you motherfuckers out there crying and bitching about shit that didn't matter. Metroid Galactic Freedom for whatever the fuck it's called, doesn't matter. Crying about every little thing, wanting this man's head on a fucking pike, wanting this man's fired, to lose his livelihood, to jeopardize this man's family just because you didn't agree with his fucking business practices. And when Joe said that shit, and this shit goes through my mind as fucking true. That's the last. Instead of people enjoying the games like with fucking Splatoon right now, instead of people enjoying that shit, y'all were crying about fucking voice chat. You were talking about boycotting this fucking game. This man, all he wanted to do was make games. He was a gamer. He was like you and me. And you fucking shit on him for nothing because you're fucking selfish. You're fucking selfish. And this is the last thing this man saw. Every little thing that he was involved in, he was a part of, was just shit on. Star Fox, Metroid, Splatoon. A fucking list can go on and on. The man could not catch a damn break. All he did was want to make games fun for everybody. And you motherfuckers sapped all the goddamn fun from this man. Yet he's still sick and all. Had fucking smiles on his face. Going on directs. Doing the fucking directly to you chuck sits. Never gonna get to see that shit again. Never gonna be the same again. What they're gonna do without him, I don't know. But I after this shit, I was just waiting for all the outpouring from different people on the internet. People you don't think there were any fans or anything. Like X-Pac, Sean Waltman, he did a tweet giving condolences for Mr. Iwata. Fucking Jason Fabok, the artist of Justice League, one of my favorite artists, he did a tweet like that. All the posts on Miiverse. Trending worldwide. Satoru Iwata. This man was loved. That fucking message from dude from who made Earthbound, that was fucking deep. That was profound. The man touched so many fucking lives. He had the respect of all his damn peers. But you wouldn't fucking know that from the stupid, asinine, childish YouTube community. Selfish motherfuckers. That's all you are. And you're fake. Y'all are fake. Because what do I see? I see the people who were crying for this man's firing. Calling him out, talking shit about this man 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. About everything. You're coming out with videos calling him a pioneer. The pillar. Oh, I didn't agree with him. He made some weird business decisions, but I still respect him and shit like that. You didn't fucking respect shit. If you did, you wouldn't even fucking mention that you thought his decisions were weird or some bullshit like that. Spent all that time shitting on this man. And now that he's dead, now you give him respect. Motherfucker has to die to get respect from people. That's why I say you fuckers are fake. Like, I'm sad, but man, I'm mad too. Just thinking about this shit makes me mad. I mean, that's not a good way to remember Iwata, how probably he doesn't want us to think this way, but still, man, I can't help it. It's like you drove the motherfucker to his grave. I don't even know. It's fucking bullshit. But anyway, Satoru Iwata was a big part of my childhood, was a big part of the video game community, the industry as a whole. He was a well-respected man before he died, at least. And he is a respected man now. Hopefully, whoever they get to succeed him, they continue with the Nintendo values, Nintendo point of view, keep it 100% Japanese so they can be true to themselves. No pandering to the West. Hopefully. Keep the course, let Nintendo be Nintendo, because honestly, that's why I love them in the first place, because they are who they are. I wouldn't want them to change for nothing. I grew up with them, and I will continue to play their games. I'll continue to love their games and the experiences that they give me. I'll continue loving my Wii U, even though you fucking people, they're fair weather fans out there, love to fucking start jumping ship and shit like that when things don't start. Though your horse in a race isn't winning right now, I don't give a fuck about that shit. Just like Iwata used to say, it's all about having fun. I've been having fun for 27 years, and hopefully for many, many more years to come. So thank you, Mr. Iwata. Hopefully you and Yamauchi-san are up there, wherever you are, and he's giving you a pat on the back, saying you did good, because he did do good. Did you see that fucking the DS sales and the Wii sales? Unprecedented, especially for Nintendo. That wasn't some fluke. Iwata had that mind. He knew what the fuck he was doing. And he didn't need any fucking armchair quarterbacks. He didn't need any fucking backseat drivers on the YouTube community to tell him what to do. And that's a damn fact. So, rest in peace.
So yeah, hey guys, everyone. Cave D 3D. Um, yeah. Satoru Wada, has passed away. He passed away July 11th, 2015. But the news broke actually July 12th. Basically, I heard about the news around 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Eastern time, around there. Um, Basically, I was watching, anime, and I finished the episode. I was watching Gangsta. If people know that, it's a, this is the second episode that came out, um, and um, and yeah, I was uh, finished watching it, and I went to Twitter, um, and I just started looking at the Twitter feed, and I see Awada um, passed away. At first I'm like, nah, 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 nah. So I opened the link. It was from Nintendo everything, and I read it, and I saw the source link, and I saw, this white document saying that you know, he died, and because of his bowel what's it called? A bile duct, right? A growth bile duct. I can't really remember now what it's called, but yeah. And yeah. At first, I was like in denial. I'm like, nah, it can't be true, can't be true. And the same time, looking at it, yo, Tony Randy, my partner in crime, co-host of the Predictors podcast, you know, he was, he messaged me and said, yo, man, we need to do a podcast. We need to do a podcast. Oh, Satoru Iwata's dead. And yeah, and I told him like, yo, but I'm going out because my friend at the same time called me before I checked my Twitter account, and he wanted to go out. Um, and but just to say real quick, I ended up not going out actually. Because I actually spent time with him and my other friends the Saturday, so I actually ended up not going out because of this news. And I guess some would see that maybe as ridiculous in a way. I don't know this man. You never knew this guy, KFD. But I don't know. It's almost like I did know him. In the Nintendo Directs, and I had seen him at E3. Um, he always Satoru Iwata, wasn't just an executive. He was a game developer in his mind, and he was a gamer at heart. More than a gamer, I would say he was a Nintendo fan at heart, just like us. And he cared for us. And you could see that with what he brought to the table to the E3s and the Nintendo Directs. He brought a little piece of himself to entertain us, to bring, what him and his employees are bringing to the table for us. So I was kind of like, yeah, it hit me. But anyway, going back to where I was, it, yeah, so I was still in denial, and I'm like, it's like, is he really dead? And then, an hour passed, and so I started seeing, like, yeah, it's true. I saw, Treehouse. She's part of the Treehouse. Alice, what's her name? Alice Rapp? I forgot her name. Her name is Allison. And I follow her on Twitter, and she was taking it hard. So I'm like, yeah, this must be true then. He really is gone. Um, really, the man, like, really, the man, like, the man was an amazing man. He was just an amazing man. He was he had a vision. He had a philosophy that was in line with Nintendo, and making it, and he I guess he believed in greater things for Nintendo. Um, as you can see, for example, what he was hinting with the NX, what he was hinting with quality of life, what he was hinting with with the Amiibo, what he was hinting with uh, going mobile with Nintendo, with the Nintendo going mobile, quote unquote. He saw, he was a visionary. He thought beyond just the average man, just the average executive. He was more than an executive. Um, and it's like, to me, I feel like I did, I lost a brother. You know, I lost a brother. I did, like I said, I didn't know the man, but I lost a brother. In the fact that, um, yeah, he was more than just, I can't, I know I'm still repeating myself, but yeah, he's more than just an executive. He was he gave it his 200% all the damn time. Helping employees. This man is a man who helped the Super Smash Brothers Melee team to debug the game, to get it out on time. This is a man who helped Earthbound get on time. This is a man who made technical advancements possible in Pokemon games. You know, and all doing it while he was a director, while he was an executive. He did not need to do that, but he said because of his kind generosity, his good heart, he did that. And I've been seeing a lot of videos this past, this since yesterday and today. And one video I watched was from Jim the Quisition or whatever his name is. I think that's his name. I actually watched his tribute video, and he basically explained how Iwata was an executive he respected, and he can't really name a lot of executives that he respects. In the fact that the message that he would deliver to the fans, to the consumer, was that we are Nintendo. We're all about the fun. We're about fun. Just paraphrasing here, and boy, I'll be honest, yo. When he was just saying that, man, I almost started choking up inside. I'm not gonna lie to you. I start choking up inside. So like hell, reading some of these quotes that he said is just, yeah, I started choking up inside. Like for example, when he said his famous quote, on my business card, I'm a corporate executive, but in my mind, I'm a game developer. But in my heart, I'm a gamer. This hearing that, this kind of gets you like, this man, they always, it's always the good ones, man. It's always the good ones that gotta go. You know what I mean? Before their time, like, because I truly, he's like, I know things are meant to be, but like I feel like he it's too soon, man. It's too soon. What else, man? Like, it's like seriously, like I just think about like this is like I'm sad, and at the same time, part of the anger gets into me is this like because you see a lot of these people making these videos saying he's a good man and all that, giving their condolences, and that's nice and all, but it's pretty sad and kind of pathetic that it takes a good man, to die before you say and appreciate the good things he has done. You know what I mean? People always want to focus on the bad, and really, be honest, I can't even think of too much bad from the man. We could argue all day and here and there. He made mistakes here and there, but in my personal opinion, I find the man did everything in the right mind. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can make an error, but if you had the right mind in it before it became an error, then you're good in my book. People want to get all like some of the people are just driven by like an ideology, and they don't want to be they want to be like narrow-minded. This man was bringing something new, saying something new to the table. Like, okay, let's make games for everyone. Let's make games, that everybody could play. And people like are so because they believe that gaming should be a sacred art or some bullshit like that. It's like, oh, fuck this guy, man. This man, he's fucking ruining Nintendo. Nintendo's behind all the time. Blah blah blah. They're fucking up with Wii U and all of this. But at the same time, they're producing the games. on his order. They're giving you the games. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, isn't that the most important thing? You know what I mean? I mean, some of you people are so fucking ungrateful. It's like it gets me mad in a way that it took now. The man is dead and gone for you to say, you know what, man, you were a good guy. You were a good guy. You know what I mean? With all this, the claims that this man should have been fired and all this bullshit was complete fucking nonsense. Complete fucking nonsense. Now you're saying, yo, he was a good man. Fucking pathetic. I know I'm being kind of harsh, but it's just like, I'm only human, man. And it's like, I can't, I'm trying, to make it, to be positive, to be, just talk about the positive thing, but like, it's like, man, this is you people, man. Fucking, I tell you. And, yeah, what else? This is the memories with this man. I mean, I really think I was just thinking about like when I started YouTube back in 2007, and and how it led up to that point, even before. And it's like when you really think about it, I have to thank the man for to some degree of wanting me to make YouTube videos as a Nintendo fan. Because if you didn't know, man, like back in the GameCube days, man, the GameCube wasn't really my favorite system. I wasn't really feeling it. And this dude, Satoru Iwata, he showed us the Revolution. And I looked at the Revolution, was like, okay, cool. I wasn't really convinced yet, but then I saw, at TGS, at the Tokyo Game Show, 2005, he showed you that remote, that Wiimote, and man and boy, that's when I was sold. Like this man, especially with the DS2. I doubted him with the DS, and he came. He proved me wrong. You know what I mean? And basically after the revolution, after E 2006 and all that with the Wii, I said, yeah, this man is the right man for the job. This is the man who is gonna bring Nintendo in the right direction. He obviously knows what he's doing. You know, um, yeah, it's like I'm telling you, I'm gonna miss the guy. I really am. I'm gonna miss the directs with him. I'm gonna miss his humor. I'm gonna miss his intellect. I'm just gonna miss. I'm gonna miss the dude. It's like he was. We didn't know him, but it's almost like we knew him. You know. And let's talk about all this praise for the guy. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, you got Skype, the dude at Skype honoring this man. Um, just after the news broke, there was a report on BBC. My mom saw it. On BBC International News. Um, I think even Tony was telling me yesterday that someone on Twitter, this comic book artist, I believe, one of his favorite comic book artists, shouted the guy out. Awada. Rest in peace. Um, so much people, man, so much people, and this made me like this thing, like you, like Nintendo don't matter, right? Nintendo don't matter, right? This man dies, but Nintendo don't matter. People want all the assholes out there want to tell you Nintendo don't matter anymore. They're irrelevant. But really, are they really ever irrelevant? You know. Um. You know. Yeah, man. There's so much respect for the man. You know, that just show you what the type of guy he was. Even today, people put flowers at the Nintendo of America headquarters in Raymond, Washington. Uh, People in New York City at the Nintendo World Store, giving their condolences. People on Miiverse giving their condolences. Everywhere, people are giving their condolences for this man because the reality is people love Nintendo. People love Nintendo. And there's people that love Nintendo more than you think. And I'm talking to all you Mitchin motherfuckers who want to complain and bitch about every little thing Nintendo doesn't do that you want to do. You know? I'm talking about all you fucking journalists, so-called journalists, who wants to criticize Nintendo and acting like wanted to criticize Iwata just because he wasn't run his company in a Western way. Yeah, I said it. You know, people love Nintendo. Um, it's the only thing people are quiet about it. you know. Um, Fuck. What else, man? Let's talk about all these fucking all you fucking assholes. All you fucking assholes who wanna use this opportunity to say this is a new era for Nintendo. I'm glad the man's dead. Seriously, like you guys could go to fucking hell. I hope you get hit by a bus. You really are a piece of garbage to say some shit like that. Really, like you really are a piece of shit. Like it's I know I've been seeing some things on YouTube and seeing some things here and there, and I tell you these people, some of these people are really a piece of garbage. Really, they really are. But I digress with that. This is to think about the guy, the man, cut his paycheck. They didn't want to lay off employees more than just cut his paycheck because I guess that's deemed as a Japanese standard for Japanese businesses. But the man did not want to lay off people because he believed, Satoru Iwata believed that if he laid them off, it wouldn't be beneficial for the company in the long term, and these people wouldn't be it would affect their work if they're worrying about when I'm going to get laid off. No, it wouldn't be good for the company. The man, as I say, he had that intellect. You know what I mean? He had that intellect to see that. He had that intellect to know that video games just need to do one thing, and that is just to be fun for everyone. Something so simple, that some people forget because all the bullshit. He never forgot that. You know what I mean? Like really, like this is the best thing to say about the dude. He was a good man. You know what I mean? He was a good man. And yeah, man. My condolences to his employees, coworkers, his family, his wife, his children. My God, my condolences to Mr. Miyamoto and I forgot. I apologize. I forgot the other guy name. That they have to now, carry on without him. You know what I mean? They gotta just get everything. Just you know, make all his plans come to to um to reality to make them succeed. And Reggie too, man. Like I don't know, you guys read what Reggie said, but I like what Reggie said. It was well said by Reggie. Saying that its successes, will not be seen until years to come. He hinted that, and he also said that his plans, sorry, will continue to be uninterrupted. So that's Reggie Fils-Aimé, looking at the reality of the matter and coming to the conclusion. He's gone. We're gonna miss him. People are gonna remember him for what he was. But don't worry, I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna make sure he won't die in vain. And Reggie, Miyamoto, everyone who was a Nintendo employee, please don't let this man die in vain. Please don't let this man die in vain. And yeah, I think that's it, man. I think I said it quite well. Thank you, Iwata. Rest in peace.
任天堂の岩田聡社長が胆管腫瘍のためお亡くなりの開発を先導しゲーム業界を牽引してきた方です。その手腕と軌跡を改めて振り返ります。
より多くのお客様に私たちの作るソフトをより的確にお届けしたい。
大手ゲーム機メーカー任天堂の岩田聡社長55歳。おととい胆管腫瘍のため京都市内の病院で亡くなりました。任天堂によると岩田社長は今から1年ほど前胆管腫瘍の手術を受け、その後胆管を切除し退院していましたが、数日前に体調を崩し入院。おとといになって病状が急変したということです。1985年に発売され世界中で大ヒットを記録。任天堂を世界有数のゲームメーカーに押し上げたスーパーマリオブラザーズ。ゲーム制作会社を経て2000年に任天堂に入社した岩田社長は星のカービィなど数々の人気ソフトを手掛けてきたスタープログラマーでもありました。2002年入社2年42歳という異例のスピードで社長に就任してからは携帯ゲーム機の分野への転換を打ち出し、任天堂 DS を発売。モデルチェンジ後も合わせて全世界で1億台以上を売り上げるメガヒット商品に成長させました。その後リモコンを振り回して遊ぶ Wii が大ヒットするなど、2008年には売上高が1兆8000億円に達する全盛期を迎えました。ところが
業績予想を下方修正する。
近年ではスマートフォンなどの爆発的な普及によってゲーム機ではなく携帯電話でゲームをする若年層が増加。去年3月期まで3期連続で赤字になるなど苦戦が続いていました。それでも今年に入ってからはソーシャルゲーム大手の DNA との資本業務提携を発表。さらに5月にはユニバーサル・スタジオと任天堂のキャラクターを使った新アトラクションを共同開発することを発表するなど、自らがセールスマンとなり任天堂復活に向け経営手腕を発揮していました。
多くのゲームファンが集まるここ秋葉原にも任天堂岩田社長死去のニュースは大きな衝撃を与えました。
任天堂のやっぱり顔だったような僕は印象がありますので、
すごい残念ですね。新しい楽しいことを直接やっぱ言ってきてた人だったので、
普通社長っていうとちょっとピンとこない立場の人だったりしますけど、
はい、そうですね。
この岩田さんに関しては、
結構やっぱそうです、知ってる社長ではありましたね。
神様ですよね。新しくまたあのぐらいの人が出てこないとちょっと失速するのかなっていう感じはしますね。
日本を代表するゲームメーカー、そのカリスマ社長の早すぎる死。常にゲームと共にあったその生涯とは。そして死因となった胆管腫瘍とは一体どのような病なのか。この後スタジオで詳しくお伝えします。
はい、ここから野村明大さんです。よろしくお願いします。最近まで大変お元気そうだったのでびっくりしたんですが、この
5月の会見の時にもね、本当に精力的な会見でしたけれども、
まさにゲーム業界のスター社長ですよね。
はい、カリスマなんですよね。ちょっと経歴をご覧いただきたいんですが、はい、東京工業大学の卒業です。北海道出身なんですよね。卒業後にゲームのベンチャーの春研究所というところに入社して、で32歳のところにそこの社長に就任してるんです。この時に、春というところが多額の借金を抱えていた、これを再建して経営者としての才能を見せたというところなんですね。で2000年に任天堂の方に移籍して、2002年に42歳の時に社長に抜擢されてるんです。
ヘッドハンディングされて2年後にはもう社長になっちゃってるんですね。
そうなんですよ。まさにもうそれも込みで最初からヘッドハンディングされたと。
DS もそうですけど、Wii が出た時はびっくりしましたもんね。
そうですよね。
僕このスタジオでやったの覚えてますもん。
まさにもう画期的なね、そういう一気に、スターダムを駆け上がっていった人なんですが、先代社長のその山内さんという人も、この人も名物社長でしたけれども、この人との関係で言いますとね、ファミコンなど大ヒット商品を生み出して任天堂の基礎を作った山内さんですけれども、戸ざまだったこの岩田さんを社長に抜擢したんですね、42歳の時に。その前段としてこういう話がありまして、実はその岩田さんがいた春というところが多額の借金を抱えた時に、任天堂山内社長が経営支援してもいいと、その条件として岩田さんを社長にすべきなんじゃないかと指名したっていうんですね。でこの時に、プログラマーとしてはもう才能開花してたんですが、経営者としての才能も山内さんが見出したというふうに言われているんですね。
で、大変すごい方なんですけども、ちょっとその任天堂の岩田社長の軌跡ですね。
こちらね、株価の動き見たらもう本当に一目瞭然で、1980年代から任天堂ファミコンとかスーパーファミコンでずっとこのゲームメーカーとしての地位を築いてくるんですが、2002年にこれ岩田社長が就任して、これ DS と Wii でこれですよ、この株価、この上がり方です。で一時はね、2007年には日本のその株価のその時価総額でトヨタに次いで2番目というところの規模まで持っていったという時期もあったという、もう本当にまさにスターダムですよね。
任天堂というと、これヤクさんね、花札トランプから始まってるんですよね。
もう自分のようにゲームを全くこれまで通過してこなかった人間にはいまだにそのイメージですけどね、これは多分相当な認識違いだっていうのはさすがに分かってます。
で、ここからずっと業績不振があって、さまざまな業務提携だとか、いよいよこれから反撃するぞというところだったんですよね。
いうところで本当に医師半ばっていうところもあると思うんですが、ちょっとその岩田社長の語録っていうのがね、非常に興味深いものが出てるんで、ちょっと見ていただきたいんですが、例えばこういう発言されてます。私の名刺には社長と書いてありますが、頭の中はゲーム開発者ですと。さらに、でも心の中はゲーマーです。つまりもう消費者の皆さんと同じですよと、まさにそのゲームのプログラマー、そしてゲームを楽しむ人間なんだということですよね。それからターゲットは5歳から95歳まで、とにかく幅広く間口を広げて、いろんな人にゲームをやってもらわなきゃいけないっていうのが信条だった。
だから野村さん、非常にその消費者に近い社長であった。
そうですよね。やっぱりゲームの功罪っていうのがいろんなところで叫ばれても、これだけ日本の、いわば文化みたいな形になってますよね。そのやっぱり礎を作った方っていうので、やっぱりもう本当に功績者として、歴史に残る方だなっていうふうに思いますよね。
我々からすると、そのユニバーサル・スタジオとの提携だとか、DNA の提携で、これ玉井さん、これから岩田社長は何を仕掛けてくるんだろうって非常に楽しみだったんですけどね。
いや残念ですよね。これからまだ10年、もっと長くできる方だでしょうからね、文化をさらに広げていくっていう使命を担って活動していってもらえればよかったなと思いますけどね。
55歳っていうのは本当に働き盛りですよね。まさにね。
病気になられる前のね、ちょっと映像出ますか。つい2年前なんですよね。これぐらいふっくらされてたんですけども、やっぱり去年の6月に胆管腫瘍の手術をされてからはこのようにちょっと痩せてはいたんですけども、
非常に意欲的にねお仕事もされてましたけど、その胆管腫瘍っていうのはどういう病気かということなんですか。
こちらね、もう本当にこれ簡単に説明しますと、胆管腫瘍、一般的には胆管がんのことを指すことが多いんですが、今詳細がちょっと明らかにされていないのでわからないんですが、やはりここ注目してほしいんですね。転移再発非常にしやすい い病気ということで、やっぱりその去年の6月に手術はしたけれども、結局持ち直すことができなかったのかなということなんですよね。
しかしでも、パックンね、これ世の中にないものをどんどん生み出す方がいらっしゃらなくなったっていうのはね。
そうなんですね。非常にクリエイティビティの高い、社長であって、任天堂というものも、僕らのアメリカ人の世代は任天堂イコールゲーム機なんですね。Let's play Nintendo ってどんなゲーム機を指しても総称として任天堂を使ってまして、で今自分の子供にとっても Wii とか DS がそのゲームの代表的なものなんですね。次の世代に誰が何を生んでくれるのか、残念ながら岩田さんにいっぱい期待してましたけど、その開発できなくなったことになったのは一番悲しいです、ね。
この岩田さんと精神を任天堂の社員の方々が受け継いで、また盛り上げていただきたいなという気はですね。
マリオと USJ なんていうところもまた注目して
ですね。改めまして岩田社長のご冥福をお祈りいたします。さあこの後ですが、大塚が
My first experience with a computer was in middle school when I was still living in Hokkaido. It was with a pay-per-hour computer in the Sapporo subway set up by the Den telephone company as an early demo of a computer using the phone lines. I went every Sunday and played Game 31, a simple numerical game, until I finally beat it. At that time, the word microprocessor did not exist, nor did personal computer. Later in high school, I got a part-time job and purchased a Hewlett-Packard calculator for 160,000 yen. It had a magnetic card reader and you can write programs for it. From then on, I was determined to learn about computers, so the programming classes I later took in college didn't really help me that much. Then, in my third year of college, I joined Hauken, which was my friend's company. It was a small company with 5 people total, all working out of a single apartment room. After that, Nintendo had put out the Famicom. I too was surprised at how fun it was. Then, utilizing some connections I had, I was given the chance to make a game myself. Nintendo's Open Mario Golf is one I was involved in from start to finish. I also had a large part in the Kirby development. The majority of the time, the programming of a game isn't completed by the projected deadline, but most companies, due to advertising and budget concerns, will put a game out regardless of whether everyone is fully satisfied with the final product. You do the best you can to approach that ideal product before you have to release it, but in the end, this process is evidently self-defeating for a game company. We programmers, however, are professionals, and we must take our limited time into account when deciding what we can and cannot do in a game. If we do not have enough time for something, we have to find a workaround that doesn't damage the original idea of the game. Coming up with remedial measures is a necessary skills for a programmer. Programmers are like the faucets on a pipe. If the faucet is large, lots of water can flow through, but if the faucet is small, that flow will be reduced to a trickle. Design, planning, graphics, story, music, no matter how many great ideas you have, if the programmers say it cannot be done, it won't get done. The faucet was too small. The job of a programmer is to produce good work, meaning that the planners and designers shouldn't feel the limitations of their hardware. I tell my programmers to think carefully before they say something like, it can't be done. There isn't that much that can't be done with a little ingenuity. Lastly, I've heard people say that game designers are to be praised while programmers are less important. That is a warped way of thinking, in my opinion. Both together are required to produce anything. No matter how wonderful a game idea is or design might be, without solid programming, it won't be well received by its audience, the players. Programmers should take pride in that fact. The qualities I look for when hiring a programmer for my company are curiosity, ambition, and whether he can sacrifice other things to achieve his goals. The ability to focus is also a major point. Those who think that knowledge of C or assembly is going to help them are, in my view, mistaken. Considering the role of video games, 10 years ago, no one thought you'd be able to play Donkey Kong on your television at home. The technical knowledge of today will no longer be useful in 10 years. In contrast, we want to hire adaptable people who are looking forward towards tomorrow's challenges. In the world of business software development, changing design plans of the software means changing the business contract, normally resulting in an extra charge to the client. But in the game industry, with Nintendo, for example, they didn't care at all if we changed the initial design plans. After all, if the game runs out boring, who cares if you follow the design plans to the letter? Programmers have that kind of decisive power over a game. Accordingly, you won't succeed as a programmer if you don't like revisions or updates. If change bothers you, you shouldn't work in the game industry. Minasan konnichiwa. Watashi wa Haipa desu. Well, that was, of course, nowhere near as good as how he would put it down in his introductions, or how he would say chosetsu, the word that defined mostly among anything else, the single word that defined who he was as a man. As a viewer of every Japanese direct, I always wondered the extent of what that word meant. Obviously, I assume that it means directly, which it does, as he spoke in English as well as in the directs outside of Japan. However, there are two other meanings, which I'll chop it up later. In his time, this man had millions of fans, admirers, many friends, rivals, and obviously detractors. Now, before I rush this down, on a personal note, I would like to thank TheWon for this opportunity to address the audience, in which, on the very unfortunate effect, an event that transpired this past weekend. That world-breaking event was, of course, the death of the young 55-year-old emperor of the interactive entertainment industry, Mr. Satoru Iwata. Now, you're asking yourself, why would I or anybody call him an emperor? What is the title of an emperor? Well, I'll let you think about something. First and foremost, an emperor is simply a man in charge of an empire. An empire is clearly and simply defined as the ruling of territories far beyond that of the homeland. Japan, or more specifically, Kyoto Prefecture, Japan, is the homeland of where the three-time generational champion Nintendo resides. Those championships, of course, because here in the West, we view consoles as the main players in the traditional market, unlike over Japan, who also include handhelds. Those championships were the third generation Famicom, the NES, the fourth generation Super Famicom, Super NES, and the seventh generation Wii. Now, before I said prefecture, and you may be wondering, what the hell is a prefecture? Well, Japan, first of all, has 47 of them. America over here has 50, 50 states. A prefecture is simply, it's like a state, except that it has less autonomous control. Like instead of your governor, being elected, he would have been selected, And that synonymously explains how Nintendo conduct themselves globally. And, also that's how, that explains how and why most Japanese business conduct themselves accordingly to get shit done. Mr. Iwata, taking the 50% pay cut to fucking get shit done. Unlike here, when, everyone out here would be looking out, for their own ass, their own self-interest. CEO here, man, his bitch ass will direct your ass directly to the unemployment office. You know, um, you know, the empire of Nintendo had the two distinct eras. You know, many of us older guys, many guys who, from the 80s, we remember, the Yamauchi era, of course, that would be, Mr. Hiroshi Yamauchi, who passed away less than 2 years ago, September 2013. But the man that we all remember was Satoru Iwata, which we're remembering today. Just a brief history of where Mr. Iwata got his start. Mr. Iwata got his start by a friend by the name of Hiroji Iwasaki, who happened to be the head of a development company called Haruken Kucho, or HAL Laboratories. But over there, man, they would just call it Halken, And Mr. Iwata was first and foremost a programmer. In that intro, that was his description of a short bio of who he was as a man, how did he get started in programming, and what does he look for in a programmer when he took over as president of HAL Laboratories in 1993. That was, a translation from the Japanese book Game Design and Nyumon, or, loosely translated as Introduction to Game Design. Of course, Mr. Iwata, first and foremost, he was in the computers. He was a programmer. He was a graduate of the prestigious Tokyo Institute of Technology. And their motto was Jidai wo Tsukuruchi waza Kokoro Sashi wa no Rikujin, which translates to engineers of knowledge, technology, and passion that change our world. And of course, some of the people that came from that institute were Toshitara Dai. Many of you may remember him. I remember him back in the day when I was a kid as, the co-creator of the compact disc, and Akitoshi Kawazu, and he was the man responsible for the design behind the very first Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy 1 and 2. He was also creator of the Saga series, and he was also the creator of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. And, as you may know or recall, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles was a game that was, it was actually the first Final Fantasy game since Final Fantasy VI that was released on Nintendo platform, and that came out exclusively on the GameCube. And how about that? Small world. So the guy who helped Mr. Iwata release this Final Fantasy game, released it on the GameCube, and that just showed right there the strong connections and leaderships that Mr. Iwata had over in Japan. That he would call people, his alumni, his peers from the past to help him conduct business. Others that were from the school were the 93rd and 94th Prime Ministers of Japan, Hiroki Hatoyama and Naoto Kan, who basically, who had very short runs in public office in Japan. That was during the time when Japan, was kicking motherfuckers out left and right, who wouldn't get the job done. That was before, of course, Shinzo Abe, still the current, Prime Minister of Japan, a very highly controversial Prime Minister, by the way. He was actually the first Prime Minister in decades to have come over here to the United States. And, but that's neither here nor there. We all know that his first game, really was Balloon Fight. Balloon Fight, to me, had my favorite, 8-bit, chip music soundtrack for the NES. Yeah, out of all the games, that was one I remember the most. My first experience with an NES was in 1987, and that was one of the first games that I remember the person who we were staying with at the time, he had that, and because we just moved from Texas, to Miami. It was a short, brief, distinct, and this motherfucker, that's how big Nintendo was, back then, even to now, was that every day he would open the door and drop his book bag, and then he would pretty much try to mimic the Super Mario run as fast as possible up the damn stairs, to get to his NES. And I remember Balloon Fight was one of the games they had, and at the time, I really didn't know what the name of the game was, until I finally was able to see what I was like, man, say, what's that music, and it looked very cool, very challenging, but he also was responsible for Kirby, he was also responsible for Mother, which over here is Earthbound, and I say that he was also responsible for his company really was responsible for Nintendo's, which I consider it to be Nintendo's most prestigious title, which is Super Smash Bros. Super Smash Bros. Was a celebration, is a celebration of gaming from a Nintendo perspective. It has this very prestigious aura, composers, you have like, you have like, tens of composers, wanting to, compose music for the game. Everybody, from here up into the stratosphere, asking, Nintendo, hey, can you put this character in the game? Especially, during Melee, and now, we have, Pac-Man, Mega Man, we have Ryu, we have Mii versions of Virtua Fighter and Tekken, and it's like Smash Bros is the celebration of gaming, of Nintendo's history, in the business, alongside very prominent third-party developers, along the way. During this time when Satoru Iwata, Mr. Iwata, when he was a programmer, Miyamoto was his rival. A lot of people weren't really aware that, basically, later on he would, say, he would admit that Mr. Miyamoto taught him a painful lesson, and that content, was king. His games outsold his by a huge margin, and he found that engineering is not quite as important as imagination, and to be honest, he was ashamed, and, if you look into that quote there, it really foreshadowed how he would eventually run the company, but, before, at the time, when he was a programmer, he was chopping it up, with, these various games, whether it be Smash Brothers, Earthbound, Kirby, it was then, after a while, he would seize a new opportunity. He traveled, 319 miles from Tokyo, because that's where, Halken was, to Kyoto to take up the job as, Nintendo's corporate planning, he would then, prove not only his programming, prowess, via Super Smash Bros. Melee, because, the game at the time, this was, in 2001, the game was not going to be able to be released on time, so he got very hands-on with the game, and, he was able to, decipher the code, see what was wrong with it, and, he got shit done, you know what I mean? And, but also, he increased the finances of Nintendo's games. He increased the profits of Nintendo to 41% by the end of the fiscal year of 2001, which was, March 2001. A business year is basically a business calendar year starts on April 1st of that year and it ends March 31st of the following year, And, during the time, this was all when, Yamauchi-san was running the company, the family business, and, that's what it was, the thing about him is that Yamauchi, he came from, a long line. Yamauchi was the third runner of Nintendo. The company is 125 years old today. The company was, started by Fusajiro Yamauchi. He had a daughter, and, of course, his son-in-law, Senkyo, he was the second guy to have taken over Nintendo. His son didn't want anything to do with the company. Something happened in his life in which, he didn't want to be involved, with his family. So, basically, he drifted away. But his grandfather, Yamauchi, he took over the company, So, basically Yamauchi was the third head of Nintendo. And at the time, I remember back in high school when the GameCube was announced. First of all, the name was called Project Dolphin back in 2000. And I remember when it was codenamed that, and Yamauchi, he wanted it to be called the Star Cube. A lot of people don't know that, but he wanted the console, the platform to be named the Nintendo Star Cube. And, many people in Nintendo were getting, frustrated with, even Yamauchi, you know what I mean? So, when you hear stories of, shareholders, getting frustrated with Mr. Iwata at the time, that's not the first time, people within Nintendo were getting, pretty frustrated with Yamauchi because they were coming off the N64, and basically the N64 was, I think to me the 64 was the apex of Yamauchi's, Dawn-like approach, his persona, where it was like, saying, motherfuckers my way or no way at all, you know what I mean? And, because of that, saying they was getting their ass whooped, by Sony, and, we all know pretty much the history between Nintendo and Sony, and, short history, 1990, Nintendo, Sony, nah, we're going with Philips, for the PlayStation, NES, Super NES CD add-on, that didn't work out. PlayStation, Sony would then try to go with Sega for the same deal. Sega America was on board, but then Sega Japan said nah. So, basically Sony, July 1993, let's go ahead, let's do shit ourselves, We all know the history of that, the fifth generation. Going into the sixth generation, Yamauchi, he needed a turnaround from Nintendo, while the N64 had outputted its highest quality of games, arguably to this day, they had the quality down, but they didn't have the quantity. You know what I mean? So at the time, unbeknownst to anybody who was looking for a successor, and as I mentioned, Mr. Iwata, when he was, the corporate planning president over at Nintendo, he had brought the company's profits up by 41%. So Yamauchi, he found, his guy. I remember when Mr. Iwata was appointed as president of Nintendo, and in 2002, and March 31st, 2002 to be exact, it pretty much shook everybody up in the interactive entertainment industry, because he was not a Yamauchi, because, as many may recall, he has, a son-in-law over who was running Nintendo of America, and everybody thought that he was going to be the next guy. But, the thing about Yamauchi was that Yamauchi had a great innate for talent. Look at the guys that he's basically sought and put on. Gunpei Yoki, Game & Watch, Game Boy, come on, Shigeru Miyamoto. We don't need to go there. You know what I mean? And Satoru Iwata, he just had that, most people can obtain knowledge, but Yamauchi had wisdom, which is something that can only be native, So it's a natural ability. You just have to have it, He had that it factor for seeking out talent, prestigious talent. Mr. Iwata, in every sense of the word, was prestigious talent. We would find that out years later, Something, very interesting, before I was able to go ahead and start doing this, I wanted to go back and I wanted to look at what was the first time that Mr. Iwata spoke to the audience. Mr. Iwata, he was very famous for basically, putting it on and over motherfuckers, Like, he was the guy that would tell you what's going to happen, and people didn't even pay attention until years later. Let me give you an example, So, back in 2001, the theme of 2001 was the Nintendo difference, and he would go on to talk about, how there's this one mega game, and I remember, people were, of course, laughing, while he said mega game, because he just called it, the generic mega game, and, now keep in mind, this was 2001, and in 2001, the mega game, was used as an example of a game in which everybody had looked to, but then, he would go on as, he used the mega game as an example as to why did so many games play the same. Now, you gotta think back to 2001, what game was he talking about as a mega game? What game was emulated back in the day, more that tried to be emulated back more than any other. You can pick a handful, of games back then that were big franchises that would then, everybody tried to be like that one game, And, the thing, he pointed out, 3 problems with the May game. Before I go into 3 problems, he did mention that the May game, everybody looked to the May game, and then afterwards, they would like to make their own May game. Then you have a whole bunch of May games, and that's how everybody, stayed the same, Basically, he was talking about industry stagnation, even the time in 2001. But I'd like you to pay attention to really, I'd like you to fill me on what the 3 things that he said. It was back in 2001. This was at E3 2001, at the Nintendo press conference. He said that 1, too much focus was put on graphics. Too many sequels, and every game on every console. You talk about multi-platform development. This was in 2001. Now, does that ever sound familiar? You know what I'm saying? That was some, look, he said that. Now, I really want you to feel me on this. He said that it would lead to mistrust, boredom, and consoles as a commodity. Now, when he detailed consoles as a commodity, he said that if Nintendo does not address this, there will come a time when only price will determine the purchase of a platform. Now, everybody, I don't think y'all feeling me on this. You know what I mean? Like, let me just say that one more time. He said the Nintendo difference. He said the May game back in 2001 caused too much focus on graphics. It was the result of too many sequels as a response to the May game. And every game would be on every console. And he said that it would lead to gamers displaying mistrust, boredom, and consoles as a commodity. And that the only reason that they would choose one console over another was because of price. This was in 2001 when he said this. To me, that's what really stood out the most to me about Mr. Iwata. I think I virtually watched every available session that Mr. Iwata had put out from 2001 all the way up until his untimely death on July 11th, 2015. Last Saturday. And the thing what Mr. Iwata meant to me, he was a programmer, he was an executive, but to me, I think that unlike most people, Mr. Iwata to me was a prophesizer. This guy understood the business better than anybody else on the planet. Man, do y'all remember that Gamers Developers Conference when he talked about mobile devices and he talked about how if, quote, we as an industry, if we did not show the consumer the value of, games that people would, people would, think and say that games have no value, due to smartphones being, 99 cents. And he said that it was up to the industry to prove as to why games are worth $29, $39, $49, $59, And when he said this, everybody was, hating on him. Everybody was like, it was talking, like a lot of motherfuckers saying a lot of greasy shit about, Mr. Waters. Like, oh, that's not an industry problem. That's Nintendo's problem. And, you know what I'm saying? All kinds of shit, you know what I mean? And look at where we are right now. Games have no value anymore. And he predicted this. He said that mobile devices would do this to the industry if the industry did not show a good reasoning why these games should be priced this much. If you look now, on PC, everybody's out here, wanting to go to PC. Let me tell you guys a real reason why people are going to PC. They're not going to PC because, they appreciate the platform. No, it's a win-win. It's like they can get the best graphics, but they don't have to pay for the games because they can bootleg it. Even Steam games. You know what I mean? People, would wait for prices to drop down on games. Now, I'm not saying that this is a knock that, hey, games are justifiable, at their price. A lot of them aren't. You know what I mean? I've always been a firm believer that games at the most should be $39.99 if they want to compete globally with the movie, industry, as far as, sales, but at the same time, people used to value games. And Mr. Iwata, he talked about that Game Developers Conference. And as usual, hardly anybody took, nobody really was trying to field him like that. Everybody was like, oh man, he's just talking from the Nintendo perspective, But, he was talking from a game perspective. You know how he's talking from a game perspective? Because Nintendo is a game company that happens to make the best games. So I would think that everybody would know what he was talking about. But, throughout playing, being in this game for over 25 years, I like to say that my favorite Nintendo platform of all time, would be from Mr. Iwata's era, the 3DS. I feel that the 3DS was a fine, perfect line between innovation and technology, that produced some of my favorite games. Games that I'm still, playing to this day. Kid Icarus Uprising is, I think, like one of the games which I was extremely blown away by. I'm surprised, even among, some of my friends, who are into, who are, scholars of Nintendo, like the guy, who's, basically this is his podcast TheWon, he liked it, but, he was surprised at how much I liked, Kid Icarus Uprising, and, my thing was, I started out in the arcades, that's where I got my start, I didn't get my start on the NES, like most people here in America did, I got my start in the arcades, My first game was Space Harrier. That was my first game, I was heavy, into Sega games at the arcade. And I'm still, a diehard, Sega scholar. but at the same time, we all respected Nintendo. You know what I mean? And my thing with Mr. Iwata was that under his era, going back to the description that he had, his personal description on the introduction of game design, the 1994 book, Japanese book, up until even 2001 with the presentation that he gave at the Nintendo E3 press conference of 2001. 2001, also that was the year when the GameCube and, the Xbox was released, here in the States. And so Mr. Iwata, besides releasing my favorite platform, let's just look at what he's done for Nintendo. He started by the fiscal year end of 2001, boosting their economy up, by 41%. The GameCube to me was a transition platform, because it had been it was started under the Yamauchi era, but it ended with the Iwata era, during the Iwata era. And so we look at Nintendo's games from the GameCube, they were the most experimental. Super Mario Sunshine to this day was the most difficult Nintendo. It was Nintendo's most difficult Mario 3D game of all time. Metroid Prime was a first-person adventure game. Mario Kart Double Dash was the most difficult. F-Zero GX, my favorite game, of the 6th generation, arguably, was developed by the same guys that made Daytona USA, Sega, You got Star Fox Assault from Namco, you had Pikmin, so it had like the most experimental games, and that was really a testament to what was going on in Nintendo at the time. Was they was during the transition phase. They didn't have like a standard. They didn't set like Iwata didn't have his vision wasn't put into practice yet. It was basically like his strategy guide wasn't out yet. It was like we was going from Yamauchi strategy guide to transitioning over to during Iwata's strategy guide. And the strategy guide wouldn't be printed until 2006. Well, actually 2004 when Mr. Iwata announced the Nintendo Revolution. But then in 2006 it was we all know that as the Wii. It was like during this time, and I know everybody's asking this question. Everybody's asking the question of, well, the number one question is, who will lead Nintendo into the future? More on that in a little bit, But Mr. Iwata, of course, he was the second emperor of Nintendo. He was the emperor of the gaming industry. Especially over in Japan. People, would definitely, look to Iwata, for like if you looked at Iwata's Nintendo Directs, well, not Nintendo Directs, but Iwata Ask, everybody would you can see how the game designers, programmers, would warm up to him because he was like, hey man, he's one of us. It's kind of like if you look in wrestling, for example, New Japan Pro Wrestling, was started by Antonio Inoki. He was a wrestler. You look now at WWE's NXT. People within that promotion. You can tell that they're more comfortable doing what they're doing than people over on Raw and SmackDown, because Vince McMahon, he was not a wrestler. Triple H was a wrestler. That's why more than anything else, I respected Iwata more so ever than any CEO of any platform holder. Because he was a game developer. He knew what these guys, he can feel where they were coming from, the things that they were doing, and Iwata, first and foremost, I would say first and foremost, but he was definitely the emperor of the gaming industry. It's like he would definitely, it's like when he asked for a game in Japan, like for example Monster Hunter, people would much rather listen to him than say Sony's Andrew House. That's how much respect. Iwata, he was the emperor of Japan. Like if you say, hey, let me get that, and they was thinking about putting it on PlayStation, more likely they'll put it on Nintendo platform instead. At his request, and but I digress. The thing is that this question will be asked for decades to come. I thought about this for a long time. There's two things I thought about really for a while, about Mr. Iwata. First, as you're well aware, there were two eras in Nintendo. There was a Yamauchi era, NES, Super NES, Nintendo 64, 1 year of GameCube. Barely, not even like 6 months of GameCube. But then you had the Iwata era, which was GameCube, throughout pretty much his entire lifespan. Wii, DS, Wii U, 3DS, both eras. Now, the time for that question to be answered is not today. Of whose era was better, because the Wii U is not finished, yet, so we don't know. But what we do know was that the two had very different philosophies. One of them was a ruthless motherfucker. He was the Don, of the industry. The fucking, he was the what do they call it? They call they call him not a sideshow, but the anarchy, of the gaming industry, Yamauchi, and he was a very ruthless motherfucker. This dude, at one time his greatest was that at one time he ran 94% of the industry. All games ran through him. But on the other side, you had Iwata. He took great care to feel where you were coming from, Whereas Yamauchi, man, he was like, man, motherfucker, I ain't trying to hear shit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's my way or no way, I think, Iwata, man, must have got that, trosets from Yamauchi, you know what I mean? But a different way, You know what I'm saying? You can go ahead, man, you can direct your ass, to directly out my face. You know what I mean? you know, um, Yamauchi during the fifth generation, and this is like one of the misconceptions of Nintendo, even today, Nintendo, the first misconception of Nintendo was that Nintendo, saying is a general audience platform instead of a specific audience platform, but the other was that Nintendo was always only about Japanese games. This could be no further from the truth, by the way, because for those who know better and those who, there are many people who talk this, but then there are people who live it, you know what I mean? And for those who live it, such as myself, we remember this thing called the Dream Team that Yamauchi had put together. Now I want you to, fill me on some of the names of this Dream Team. Besides themselves, included Rareware, Acclaim, Midway, LucasArts, Virgin Interactive, Time Warner Interactive, Game Tech. Now, if you guys remember Game Tech, released that fighting game, Brutal Paws of Fury. You know what I'm saying? Y'all remember that shit, Angel Studios and DMA Design. DMA Design, of course, was the development studio that would go on to make, to make some game in the, in the near future. Some game called Grand Theft Auto. You know what I mean? And if you notice, all the names that I mentioned, they were all Western. Yes, the Dream Team comprised entirely, exclusively of Western developers. So it wasn't Sony that was the first Japanese company to embrace the West. It was Nintendo with the Nintendo 64 with this Dream Team. For its then Project Reality platform, which would then be known here in America as the old 64. But then, that was also the first time in Nintendo's history that the Nintendo 64 was synonymously named across all platforms, So, during that time, that was when the industry was changing because, during the fourth generation, it was very common for the overseas version of a platform from Japan to be totally named different from its native Japanese name, But then, look at Mr. Iwata. Look at Iwata's team. Namco, Sega, Koei Tecmo, Platinum Games, Atlas. They were mostly all Japanese collaborators, and really Nintendo also started that too, collaborating with third-party developers and publishers on creating Nintendo content, in which, would be emulated again by, Nintendo's offspring, which was the PlayStation. The PlayStation was Nintendo's offspring, You've seen Sony do this even now with Naughty Dog and Capcom Street Fighter V as games being co-developed, even some things, Yamauchi's era, Nintendo logo was red. Under the Iwata, that logo was changed to gray. Now, if you remember back to 2011, it was asked why Nintendo would name its 8th generation console the Wii U. And to me, I understood perfectly when the name was announced. It was was basically for Mr. Iwata to cement his legacy. Because nobody had a problem when Nintendo named during the Yamauchi era when it was named, when the Super, was called the Super Nintendo. Everybody must have expected a different name because look at the time, who their competitor was in the hardware space. It was Sega, and Sega didn't name their system the Super Master System or the Master System 2, They named it the Mega Drive, or the Genesis as we know it here in the United States. But, nobody criticized Nintendo back then how, they named it the Super Nintendo, But it was just the Wii U, The Wii U was basically Iwata's way of saying, okay, well, this is the Super Wii, But he didn't want to bite off, his predecessor, He wanted to cement his, his own legacy, which he did with the Wii U, And, if you look at some of his recent success, it was the first time ever in Japanese history in which 6 games sold over 2 million copies, and they were all for 3DS. Monster Hunter 4, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Sapphire, Yokai Watch 2 Gonzo and Honkai, Ishinochi, and of course, Smash 4 for the Wii U. Not for the Wii U, my bad, for the 3DS. He launched, Nintendo's most successful new IP. Yes, I said it, Nintendo's most successful new IP, that just took off running. Satoru, it just took off running. How many other franchises in Nintendo's history, when was the last time you remember a Nintendo game that was brand new, got dropped, and then just took off running? Brand new IP, never been made before. Now people are wondering right now, as far as Splatoon, because Splatoon was made by 5 guys. Their names were Yusuke Amano, Tsubasa Sakaguchi, Hisashi Nogami, Seta Inoue, and Shintaro Sato. 5 guys. And so, what's the point of all this? Well, it all points to the one other question that everybody's asking right now is, who would succeed Mr. Iwata? Now, those 5 names I just mentioned, they all created Splatoon. Whose name was not there? Shigeru Miyamoto. So Nintendo has a plan, everybody. Nintendo has a plan to lead into the future. They already got the roadmap ready. Personally, for me, I think that the guy who is going to run Nintendo is the guy who made his appearance solo on the Japanese 31 2015, May 31st Nintendo Direct, and he went by the name of Morimoto, and he was a very clean cut, sharp presenter. His personality is pretty different from Iwata's, whereas like Iwata is very, freestyle like, very relaxed. This guy is, for a young guy, he's more strict. He's got a little bit of both. It's like based on his personality, it's like his personality is like a mixture of, even though he's got Iwata, the somewhat charismatic pose of Iwata, he's got a little bit of that Yamauchi in him, you know what I mean? So, we don't know too much about this Morimoto. All we know is that this guy, he's young, You know what I mean? Mr. Iwata, more likely was the one that was closest to him and trying to push him, up to the top. Because when you think about it, Mr. Iwata, when he became president of Nintendo on, March 31st, 2002, he was only 42 years old. We all remember Yamauchi as this, Hihachi Mishima, fucking, old man, Vince McMahon like motherfucker, you know what I mean? And, Satoru Iwata was, say he was a young guy, when he started, running the company. And, Morimoto looks like to be a young guy. So, to those, who personally have asked me, during this time, who's going to be the guy, Morimoto is the guy. Interestingly, when earlier this year during the DNA Nintendo Alliance, Nintendo used a comparison, very interesting comparison. There should be no doubt in anybody's mind that Mr. Iwata was the real deal. You know what I mean? Because from time to time, I would hear on these forums and these videos, people say, oh yeah, he's nothing like Yamauchi. Well, saying motherfuckers, man, pay attention to this. During that Nintendo and DNA Business Capital Alliance, which was, on March 17th, this is when Nintendo announced the new the 9th generation platform, the NX. But the thing that he said that really struck out to me was, why would Nintendo invest themselves into the mobile business? And, first and foremost, it was, arguably Nintendo's biggest announcement as a business since Yamauchi had decided to get Nintendo into the interactive entertainment business, really. And what he said, first and foremost, just to clarify, he did say that no Nintendo franchise is exempt from being on mobile, But at the same time, the why as to why he went into mobile, struck awe on me, you know what I mean? And Nintendo said that just as Nintendo had used television sets as a communication medium for its devices, they view smart devices as the new generation communication medium. So in other words, he compared smart devices to televisions, That's pure brilliance. And I was like, man, that's how the way they looked at it, They said that it would be a waste for them not to pursue mobile because everybody has one, but everybody's using it as a communications medium, like a television set. Everybody's got a TV, and what have we been plugging into those TVs for the past 25 years? NES, Super NES, Nintendo 64, GameCube, Wii, Wii U. They've all plugged in television sets. Back in the day, look at the guys who made television sets. Panasonic, Sharp, Sony, General Electric, RCA, Toshiba, Hitachi, Now look who's making smartphone devices now. Apple, Samsung, Sony. So it's really no different now than it was back then. You know? And once again, motherfuckers, fail to feel where he was coming from. For example, that was a time when he announced the NX platform. Everybody's like, oh man, Nintendo is not making any more dedicated, game systems. They're going straight into mobile. And he announced the NX to appease to those who would doubt. But even then still, you still have motherfuckers like Time Magazine write bullshit ass articles anyway. And I think really, to close this out, I think really that was one of the things, that was the main thing that killed him, was the level of stress that he had to endure for the past 12 years from a lot of stupid ass motherfuckers who really didn't feel what he was saying. What he was saying back in 2001 about gamers having mistrust, boredom, and viewing games as a commodity. That shit that we're experiencing right now. And he said that was a result of too much focus on graphics. That's what we're doing right now. Too many sequels. That's what's going on right now. Every game on every console, fucking multi-platform development. That's what's going on right now. Every game on every system. As a matter of fact, what was ironically was that he had to revisit that earlier this year. We talked about what separates Nintendo from everybody else. Reggie Fils-Aimé, the guy that was the head of Nintendo, over here in America, he said the same thing. We said that they didn't want to get into a bidding war over no goddamn third-party, exclusives. Not even exclusives, DLC, that type of bullshit. They didn't want to get into a bidding war between that. Back in 2001, Mr. Iwata said that games will become a commodity if we keep steering this path towards multi-platform development. Games being on every single goddamn system. Now look at where we are now. Games ain't got no value no more. Back in the day, if you want to really know why games ain't got no value, do you remember how back in the day when a game would be discontinued and you had to go through, the treasure hunt, of finding that game brand new, sealed, original label, the thrill of it. Shit, nowadays, you can go on Amazon and you can still find that game. Games ain't got no value no more. That's the harsh truth. And I think that's one of the things that killed him too. Because nobody will listen. Nobody will listen. If you look back at everything that Mr. Iwata said from the time he spoke at E3 2001 up until his untimely death, every single thing that he said had meaning. And it all came to pass. The shit that we're going through now in this industry that is changing rapidly, he said that back in 2001. That was 14 years ago. You know, it's very hard for me to say this, as it unfortunately came true, but you know, the constant pushback that Nintendo had to do because the goddamn Western media over here always talking greasy about Nintendo during the Iwata era, during his era. You know, how Nintendo should do this and how Nintendo should do that. How they would spin his Nintendo Directs, knowing good and goddamn well that everybody in the world is watching it in real time. You know, go back sometime and look at some of the articles of, you know, transcribes, their quote unquote transcribes of what Iwata was saying during the Nintendo Direct, and then you look at your own record and be like, man, wait a minute, he didn't say that. Or you're missing that he said this. You know? But ever since last year, when it was announced that Mr. Iwata would not make his annual appearance at the Electronic Entertainment Expo in Los Angeles, and the fact that we haven't seen him appear in a direct from time to time, and when he last appeared in April, on April 1st of this year via Nintendo Direct, that was the last time we saw him visually, and he didn't look great. Now, the reason why I asked TheWon to let you guys look at that video was taken from a very recent news station of a description of the life of Mr. Iwata, and I asked TheWon to post that video because it's funny that even with my words, you know, people at the end of the day, they find visual more tangible than audio. You know what I mean? Because visually, because you guys can't see me, the tangibility is lost in the expression. You know, so but in that report, they talked in great detail about where Iwata got his start. You know, y'all saw those pictures, you know, how he looked like, you know, back in the 80s. That shit was crazy, wasn't it? You know what I mean? To, you know, a comparison of what he looked like, you know, but, you know, one thing I did like about that video, which you guys just saw, was, you know, the graph, you know, of when Iwata, you know what I'm saying, was during his era, when he was running the empire, you know, that spike was really high, wasn't it? You know, I can go on about more about differences between Yamauchi and Iwata, and I thought to myself, hey, you know, maybe we should save this question for later, you know, but nah, I'm gonna tell you motherfuckers right now, the Iwata era is better than the Yamauchi era. He took Nintendo to brand new heights that they've never seen before. guy, supposedly, my candidate, Morimoto, remains to be seen. But it will be a very different Nintendo 5 years from now. Who knows what Nintendo's next color is going to be as far as its logo. That logo, hell, it may be totally different. They may change the logo. Although that's going to be, heavily debated internally within Nintendo. Who knows how the way the NX is going to be? Maybe they're going to delay it by a year. Maybe, this Morimoto has a different vision of what the NX may be. That's what's going to happen. When the new guy takes over from the old guy, new things happen. When Iwata took over Nintendo in 2002, new things happened. We got a portable with 2 screens, which, by the way, was the first device. It was the first mass production device that had touch capabilities as far as it being the most successful. You had a device that came built with motion technology. That's drastically different from Yamauchi. Yamauchi was all about power. If you look at the Super Nintendo, it was one of the strongest of that 4th generation. If you look at the 64, it was the strongest of that generation. And the GameCube was stronger than the PlayStation 2. So all this, false narrative of, Nintendo was never about graphics. What that tells me is that for whoever's saying that, they don't know shit about nothing. They didn't live the Yamauchi. And you're probably less than the age of 25 because you was not old enough to experience the Yamauchi era of when Nintendo was very much about graphics. I just read you guys that transcript that Mr. Iwata had from Game Design Newman about programming. I think that Mr. Iwata's greatest achievement, as I was looking at graph in that video, was during in 2008 when Nintendo was responsible for 98% industry growth. That meant that the other two did a combined 2%. So if there's any doubt that Mr. Iwata was second tier, or that Mr. Iwata was only listening to, Yamauchi, he was just taking orders from Yamauchi, during, his time alive. Look at the results. Look at the results. At the time of this recording, I read up on his funeral, and it was very touching that guys from all over would come over to his aid. Well, I'm not sorry, not his aid, but would pay homage to Mr. Iwata. During the time of his passing, Richie Fils-Aimé of Nintendo, another guy that you guys be hating on, what I'm saying, your false narratives and shit, He said along the lines that, Mr. Iwata is gone, but it will be years before his impact on Nintendo and the full video game industry will be fully appreciated. He was a strong leader for our company, and his attributes were clear to most everyone: intelligence, creativity, curiosity, and a sense of humor. But for those that's fortunate to work closely with him, what will be remembered most was his mentorship and especially his friendship. He was a wonderful man. He always challenged us to push forward, to try the new, to upset paradigms, and most of all, to engage, excite, and endear our fans. That work will continue uninterrupted, man. Feel me on that, guys. That work will continue uninterrupted. Nintendo is ready. They prepared for this. But they couldn't prepare for the impact. I couldn't prepare for the impact. Now, you're asking yourself, why would I have said this? Let me tell you something, man. It's hard to say this even now. I thought about this time and time again. But, how I got the news in the first place was when Iwata, it popped up on my notification, and it was actually, TheWon. It came up during the notification that he had passed away, but I wouldn't have known because when I looked at my notification, it was basically, tweeting #Iwata, and the thing that I thought was, okay, Iwata, the thing in my mind at the time, I assumed that he had stepped down, I assumed that he had stepped down, but it wasn't. Satoru Iwata passed away. And I said it was very hard for me to say this even now, but I knew that his time was nearly over. When I saw it in my mind, I said, okay, he must step down. But in my heart, something told me that something much worse had happened. And I went to sleep to try to reset myself, clear my mind, say, hey man, if the worst which I feared, has happened, at least I'll be, ready mentally to take all this in. Ever since his last appearance at last year's E3, I mentioned, his last, visual appearance was on the 4/1, the April 1st, or the, April 2nd, for those who watch Japanese direct, such as myself. We wouldn't see him again after that. We wouldn't see any more Nintendo Direct from him. The last time we hear Mr. Iwata's voice at all was at the E3 digital event, their E3 digital event last month. Mr. Iwata's last public words were at Nintendo's 75th annual general meeting of shareholders, which was held on Friday, June 26th. But the eerie telling, even when I read that document that day, the document was only 4 pages long, despite the fact of all the grand news Nintendo has been making so far all this year. Mr. Iwata is is gone. Before we close, let's close with the word that he always used. And it's time that everybody knew what that word truly meant. As Mr. Iwata was to me among, and should be to everybody really, among everything else, he was a prophesizer. This guy, the way he spoke, it always had meaning. And if one would just sit down for a second and learn to listen and feel what he was saying, we wouldn't have had all these debates that most of them weren't real. You know? The word that defined him more than anything else, if I were to put one word, it was the word chosetsu. And that's spelled CHOUZETZETSU. Once again, that's CHOUZETSU. It has three meanings, actually. Now, that iconic gesture that even I just did just now, it translates to directly, but a fancy term is transcendence. But there were two other meanings to the word chosetsu. Besides directly or transcendence, it also meant excellence and superiority. Transcendence, excellence, superiority. And that, everybody, is what Satoru Iwata was.
Once again, I'd like to thank all my peers, all my friends who contributed on this video. Thank you guys. And now, before this video ends, I'd like to do my part. I'd like to give you my tribute, my eulogy for Satoru Iwata, the late president of Nintendo. When I came up with the idea for this video, the day after his death, when we found out, that Sunday night, I guess you can say, American time, I was enraged. If you see my Twitter, you follow me on Twitter, you probably see some of my posts and everything. I was really pissed. Not the idea that he died, but the idea of the BS that was about to come of his death. You know, I'm a person who doesn't go to funerals and I don't go to weddings. The sheer spectacle of the BS that is there for those events, especially when you know the people involved. You know, I've been aware all my life that humans, but man as a species, we're naturally born evil. We're born in hell pretty much, you know. And we have to learn to be good. We have to learn to be courteous. We have to learn to be respectful. It's not a natural ability of ours. It's something we learn through life. And unfortunately, with that, you get what we have in our YouTube community. You know, my original idea for this video was basically me ranting for maybe 30 minutes and basically one by one telling off every pitiful, sorry ass, fake ass, punk ass gamer that exists in our community. Just one by one. I didn't give a fuck. because I know these people, seeing these same people who are now doing their own tribute videos. They're not part of it. There is a loss. There's a feeling of loss they have, but it's also a opportunist part to it. You know what I'm saying? It's a hot topic. Let me gain more fans, but acting like I feel upset. Let me take advantage of the situation, and that what happens in funerals. That what happens in weddings. Some people are there at a funeral, at a wedding, because they actually feel something towards what's going on, the bride and groom, or the person who died. There's other people there just with the idea to see what happens, the spectacle of it. Who's going to be crying, who's going to start fighting, who's going to drink too much, if it's a wedding, is the girl worthy of the man? Is the man worthy of the girl? How many groomers going to sleep with the bridesmaids? That kind of stuff, the BS. And I've always been a real honest person. You know what I'm saying? I don't really hold anything back ever. Honestly, shit I say on Twitter is shit I tell people all the time in real life. I'm almost a 40-year-old dude, and so I grew up in a time where it wasn't no PC bullshit. It wasn't this social justice warriors bullshit where you had to hide your feelings because you was afraid to hurt somebody else's feelings. Feelings get hurt in real life, especially where I come from and how I grew up. And so I don't go to weddings and funerals with the idea that if shit like that went down, I would be the dude in the middle of it just calling it out. You know what I'm saying? Someone crying, acting like they're gonna turn over the casket because someone's dead because they love them so much. I'm that dude who says, motherfucker, how can you sit here and say you love him so much? How can you sit there and put up the scene they saying you're so lost when last week you was cheating on him, or you was doing this, or you was cursing him out, or talk about this? I'm that kind of person. You know what I'm saying? I'm the kind of person that I believe that when it comes to people you love and family and everything, no matter what, it's ride or die. No matter if they're wrong, no matter what it is, your people, your boys who you really are down for, no matter who it is. If they're your people and you love them, you got them 100%, no matter what. You know what I'm saying? I have very few real life friends, honestly, but the friends I do have, if they need something, if they need me, they call me. I'm there, no matter what, hook or crook. You know what I'm saying? That's how it goes down. I got family my family, I love them like that. And I will always have their back no matter what, even when they are wrong. You know what I'm saying? And so maybe that's not a realistic way to look at things, when I look at other people. But I do feel people should be like that. And so when I see people wavering, when I see people not having faith, when I see people constantly criticizing things that's not really that important, I really doubt their fandom. I really doubt their respect. I really doubt their love that they say they have. You know what I'm saying? And there's no way it's honestly no way you can really measure someone's fandom and their level of stuff. We can try to, and what I consider more valuable, what I consider valuable may be not as valuable to someone else. But I do think you can measure respect you have of people, and you can measure, like I said, the faith you have in people, and faith you have in certain things. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, this YouTube community, especially on the Nintendo side, it's probably 75% garbage. There's 25% out there who actually really love Nintendo, and when I say love them, not that they're fanboys and all they do is worship Nintendo and Nintendo does no wrong, but they love Nintendo the same way they love a family member, and that love comes with some respect and a faith and an understanding and a benefit of the doubt and things of that nature. And all I've seen this generation with the Wii U is none of that. The Wii really opened my eyes to the overall base of Nintendo. It really doesn't have one. There's really not that many Nintendo fans, honestly. You take away all the casual gamers, all the expanded gamers who bought Wii's, and you have what we have now with the Wii U. Very few million people who actually consider the Nintendo product worth buying, worth having. That I can't tell you why. Maybe Nintendo has passed the current gamers by with their styles of games and their styles of products they produce and everything, how they go about business. But I'm on a mindset that gamers have passed Nintendo by. And it starts with not truly understanding what Nintendo is about and what they've been. And Iwata, the president, he truly represented Nintendo at its finest. He is Nintendo. And that's why it really sucks that he's died, because I really feel there's only very few people, probably in Nintendo themselves, who truly get the Nintendo and are worthy to run the company to keep it as Nintendo. You know what I'm saying? And so, it really sucks that he's died, because he truly embodied what Nintendo has always been about. Creativity, fun for everybody, and more than anything, it's always about the video game. It's always about that entertainment. Nothing else. Nothing else matters. Like I was saying about the community and everything, like I said, my plan was really to shit on a lot of people, call them out by name. Like I said, I don't give a fuck. This is YouTube, you know what I'm saying? None of these motherfuckers will come see me. If they do come see me, they don't want to do that. But, that's another story. But, it's just real shitty that there's people making videos and they're putting them, and they're getting paid for them and everything, and they're getting new subscribers and everything, and all they done this generation is pretty much pissed on Wii U and the 3DS and Iwata and Reggie and everything else about Nintendo, the Mario games not having certain features, complaining about not getting certain games, complaining about not kissing the Western developers' ass, complaining about game delays and game droughts and just all this shit. It's always been complaining, never understanding, never trying to figure out, I wonder why this game is not being promoted, I wonder why they're not doing this, I wonder why this is not happening. Never trying to understand. It's just complaining, give me, I won't. And that's the main thing. People, the NFL professional athletes, lately their industry has been going around saying that what they do is a privilege. It's not a right, it's a privilege. And I totally disagree with that. If you're a teacher, if you're a doctor, if you're the president of the United States, you've done something in your life. You sacrificed something in your life to get to that point to achieve that goal. And professional sports athletes, they embody that. They start out very young, training, work on their bodies, work on their minds, sacrificing free time with friends, sacrificing all the basic pleasures that we all have as young kids to finally get to the point to maybe one day earn a spot, a 1 in a million spot to be a professional athlete. And then you gonna tell me now that's a privilege? They don't, it's like they don't really deserve to have that, even though they worked their whole life to achieve that goal. They earned that. You know what the privilege is? Playing video games. Being to buy a video game and play it for an hour or two and have this escapism, that's a privilege. Because there's people around the world who don't know what fucking video game is. There's people around the world who their escapism, their chance to relax and unwind is basically just being happy they're still alive. Look at the sunset, feeling the rain on their body. But we gamers, this generation of gamers that's probably come in with the PlayStation, I don't want to put on a PlayStation because it really ain't all their fault. But somewhere later in the line, the mentality of gamers switched and changed, and it went from gaming being, this hobby we cared about, being a friend, to this right. You know what I'm saying? When I was young, if you was a guy who played games too much, you took flack for that. You know what I'm saying? It was a price you paid for being someone who enjoyed games. You know what I'm saying? It's a price you paid for it. Nowadays, you don't pay no price, because everybody wins now. Everybody get a medal. Everybody beats the game. Everything's so easy now. Back in the day, it was hard work. It's an effort. It's a choice you made. If you really want to sit down and master Street Fighter, you want to sit down and play a certain game, you had to give up something to do that. I can remember going to Major Video, Blockbuster Video, these old video rental places, trying to get a copy of Mega Man 2, trying to get a copy of Super Mario Bros. 3 for the first time and renting it for the weekend. And you had to basically sit there all day, get your mom and dad drop you off at the place, and you sat there all day for that one rental copy to come in that you can finally get and rent for maybe a day and a half. And then a day and a half, you did nothing else. You sacrificed not seeing your friends. You sacrificed maybe not going to the movies. Whatever else they were doing, you gave it up because you wanted to play that game and enjoy that game. And see, I'm part of the OG generation. I was gaming before Nintendo. Before Nintendo made consoles, I was gaming. You know what I'm saying? So I'm over the Nintendo. I guess you can say when it comes to console wise. And then when they came in, you can basically I look at Nintendo as a little brother. You know what I'm saying? Or a friend who we've grown up together through the generations. You know what I'm saying? And so being an OG person, being a person who lived through gaming, kind of like you live through hip hop, kind of how you live through everything, everything a lot. How you living through it is different than just being a part of it or just experiencing it. It's a total difference. You know what I'm saying? So Nintendo is very important to me because like I said, I feel like we've grown together. You know, as I matured, they matured. As I, done things, they've done different things. It feel like we shared a life together, and it pisses me off when I see people basically, like I said, disrespecting that life, shitting on that life. You know, who are you to start gaming maybe only 2 generations, 3 generations to tell somebody who's been gaming for 5, 6 generations, or tell this company that's been doing it for a lot longer than you've been alive, a lot longer you've been gaming, that what they're doing is wrong. Now, who are you? You know what I'm saying? And that's what we get. We got a lot of gamers who somehow they think they know what's best, even though they haven't lived through it. You know? And the same thing too, having faith in being a fan is like, I ain't saying that Nintendo's perfect. I ain't saying anybody's perfect. But if your brother, if your sister, if your uncle, if somebody in your family did something wrong and they came to you and said, I need help, I did this, I need some help, please help me, would you sell them out? Because it's the right thing to do. Because you don't want to seem like you're biased. If your family did something wrong and they needed help and they came to you and said, hey, I did this wrong, man, I need help, please help me. I'm sorry, man, it's against the law, you did what's wrong, I'm going to turn you in. Well, you really do that? Because that would seem like you would do. And if you don't see Nintendo as a friend and you don't see them as this person, something more than being a video game company, then why are you getting so upset when they do certain things? You know what I'm saying? Why are you getting so angry? Why are you petitioning games? Why are you boycotting games? Why are you pushing someone being fired? Why? If it don't matter to you as much, why you have these so strong negative emotions? And so, that more than anything, the reason why I'm not going to shit on everybody like I planned on doing, because I really honestly, I want this video to be about Iwata and his life and his legacy, and to mention these fools, these dumbass, punk ass motherfuckers in the same video and the same breath as him is be disrespectful to him. Okay, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't. And he's done so much for us and gaming and Nintendo and just entertainment and everything possible. This man had a vision, and it was all about making games fun and making games part of everyday life to where there's no one getting beat up anymore. There's no negative connotation about gaming. It's just about it's like watching TV. You know what I'm saying? It's like using the internet. It's fun. It's something you do when you want something to do, and you can do it with anybody. And that's the main thing too. Old school gaming was about a community. It was about going to the arcade and seeing the same guys playing the same games every weekend, and you compete against them in a respectful manner, and you try to beat them in fighting games or get high scores in them in arcade games, and whatever it was, but it was a nice respect level there. It was an understanding. You built a community, you grew together, and gaming since then has changed. It's not like that. It's basically just shit on everybody, shit on everything, and it's about being popular. When I was young, being a gamer wasn't really popular. But at the same time, if you had certain games and people didn't have it, that made you popular amongst your peers. But nowadays, it's people say things and do things just for the hits, the views, and they just want to be the man. They just want to be the next guy who get invited to E3 and all this stuff. They want to be little celebrities. You know what I'm saying? For basically doing nothing. That's the main thing. People on YouTube, people in general, are questioning what this man and his company should do, and they can barely make decent YouTube videos without having the camera in front of their face. You know what I'm saying? No special effects, no nothing, just raw footage of the camera in front of their face. That's their video. Yet they have the audacity to tell a company who creates these high level, high quality products how they should do it and what they should do. And so it really, like I said, it really pissed me off, and I'm getting mad just talking now about it, where I feel like I want to go off. But like I said, it is not worth it because nothing's going to change. You know what I'm saying? My generation of gamers have mostly retired, mostly died off. Mostly in a way just are so disgusted with the current state of gaming, you kind of just don't care. It's kind of like old school rap, kind of like old school R&B, old school music. You're so disgusted about what's currently going on, all you do is stay in your corners to the old school, and you don't venture out anything new because you don't respect anything new. And that's why I've been with gaming for a long time. You see with my channel, I don't make the videos anymore. I don't really interact with people too much anymore because I really honestly think that everybody's pretty much an asinine fool, except for a select few, and I try not to get involved, no matter what's going on. I'm not subscribed to many people. I'm not following people on Twitter, on Facebook. What your opinion is your opinion, and that's your opinion. I don't need to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't care to hear it. And you may feel the same about me. So whatever. I just don't care. This has always been entertainment for me. But before I think it's enough of that. I do want to say that Iwata will go down maybe as, in this short time, the best Nintendo president currently we have, because of what he did with the Wii and DS era. That alone is probably the most innovation Nintendo has ever done for the gaming world, for electronic world. The Wii brought in motion control gaming. The Wii made Sony and Microsoft halt their position to then backtrack and try to copy what they did, and failed. But it caused them to basically shut the shop to try to capture that magic Nintendo released into the world. The DS was one of the first mobile devices that had touchscreen capability, and now touchscreen capabilities is standard across the board. Nintendo's always made products that work, products that were consumer friendly when it came to options like backwards compatibility, free online, free network capabilities, and just solid products. And more importantly, they always had the most interesting games, no matter what they were, from something as simple as Wii Sports to something next level as Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. You know what I'm saying? Nintendo's been capable of do all kind of things, and more importantly, they just made the games were fun and interesting. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't anything to it. There wasn't all this stuff you had to learn and figure out and everything. It's just cut the game on and play it. And I hope the next Nintendo president, if he's not someone already there, I hope he's been trained in the art of Nintendo. You know what I'm saying? Don't give in to what these fake ass punk ass gamers want. You know what I'm saying? Fuck Western developers. Fuck selling out fully to mobile. Fuck everything that really comes from the U.S. You know what I'm saying? The U.S. You see how we do things in the world. So we're a great country, but we a horrible country too. We do a lot of punk ass lame shit. And so stay Japan, stay Nintendo, and do what you do. You know what I'm saying? Which is make great games, and that only you can, and only your way. And more importantly, with Iwata, what I'm gonna miss and what I respect is they did stuff their way, and they didn't apologize for it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about being cool. They're gonna make you think what's cool. They're gonna make you like they're cool. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about what was trendy and let's do what the current trend says is popular and let's do that. You know what I'm saying? Like skinny jeans and that bullshit. No, Nintendo's about being Nintendo, and if they're trying to be cool, it became cool. Directly, my body's ready, that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? They set their own trend, like they always have and always will. And like I said, Iwata, he died, and I believe he died of a broken heart. I mean, we know he had a tumor, cancer, or something like that, and that would kill him. But I think he died of a broken heart because this generation of the Wii U and 3 has been real hard on company wise, and the man did everything he can to turn it around. He even cut his salary so you wouldn't have to let any employees go. He cared that much. You know what I'm saying? Where Microsoft and Sony have shut down complete companies and laid them completely off. This dude has done one thing because he cared about everybody under him. He cared about, And the gamers, when the 3DS got a price cut, we got free games. When shit happened, he tried to find a way to balance it out. When they made a mistake, he apologized instantly. You know, it wasn't this bullshit that the other companies have done for us. You know what I'm saying? And yet the gamers never seen it. They never, you know, you don't think about the ambassador games you got when the 3DS got a price cut and they gave us these free games. You don't think about that. You know, you don't see how no one else. They don't have to do that. They don't have to do that, but he did it. You know, people don't think about the Wii U being backwards compatible from the jump. Them making a system that's always backwards compatible with the console they just had. You know, where you can still always have stuff, still always have something to play. They don't see how you ain't paying for online. You're not paying for certain features. You know, you're paying for these certain things. Yes, it's not as great as the other person, but you're not. You know, it's still a positive to it. And that's the one thing about gamers hate more than anything. I hate how we're always comparing something that we supposedly love to something else. But at the same time, in real life, you do that in real life? Do you tell your girlfriend that, yo, this other girl over here, you know, her ass fatter than yours. You know what I'm saying? She fine as fuck. You know what I'm saying? You need to either get fine like her or something. You know what I'm saying? Do you do that? Hell no. But the Nintendo, we tell them all the time. We tell them all the time how they need to be like Sony. They need to be like Microsoft. They need to be like Apple. They need to be like everybody but themselves. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I question all these fools doing these tribute videos now, talking about love and respect and everything, when the same motherfuckers weeks ago, months ago, years ago, doing the same bullshit I just spoke about in this video. You know what I'm saying? I question that. You know what I'm saying? I'm calling you out. I think you're frauds. All you motherfuckers. And you know who you are. You know what I'm saying? And the viewers know who they are. But he was a great man. You know, the head of a great company who's going to be here forever. And, you know, his spirit is going to live on. And his ideas, I hope, live on. And I hope that the successor follows his footsteps. I hope the successor is just like him, but actually just a little bit more mean. Iwata was a respectful man, and he was a merciful man, and he was a gentleman. The next leader needs to be a little more rough on the edges. Don't pull no punches. Don't take no bullshit. You know what I'm saying? You know, he was the president we needed, but we didn't deserve. And you know, I hope all the real fans out there, not the pretendos, not these fake ass gamers, not none of these motherfucking fraud motherfuckers, you know, the real gamers out there, I hope, you know, y'all really realize what we lost. And, you know, it's not gonna come again, you know, we never know. I mean, just we have to wait and see what happens with it. But I want to thank you for your contribution to Nintendo, keeping them video games, you know what I'm saying? Keeping them video games. Not the best, not, you know, the leader of a certain generation. Nintendo is video games, hands down. They're video games. When I think of video games, it will always be Nintendo. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, I look at an encyclopedia and it says video games, the first word should be Nintendo. And he's one of the reasons why. So, much respect, much love, thank you. You will be missed. You will be honored from now on. And, you know what I'm saying? What is it? Luck to the heavens or something like that? You know, I can't think of the motto, but, you know, stay Nintendo forever. Thank you. And I hope you guys enjoy this tribute to Iwata. I hope you listen to it all. If not, you know, whatever, but I appreciate if you did. I'll try to do more videos like this in the future, talking about other things, you know, but I just want to do this video because I felt it was important, you know, because this is a major event. And, it needed to be discussed, and I really had a lot of things I wanted to say, and I really didn't say all of it, maybe the way I wanted to, but, you know, I think I feel good about what I just said. You know, I got this off my chest, and it is what it is. So, see you guys next time on another episode of the One and Only Video Game Show. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Peace.